What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down what's happening with the economic calendar thus far, what's happening with some very important things affecting the markets that you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I break into down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening with the markets. Looking at SPY, this thing is currently testing support at 501. We're going to be watching to see how well this could hold. Now, once we do end up doing so, we're going to be watching to see our reactions, which end up developing, and to see if we can get some kind of breakout from here or not. So I'll be talking more about this in just a few minutes. Let's first talk about some new data. So we have Bowman about to give a speech at 9:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be a little bit careful because Bowman and Kashkari are the two most hawkish Fed speakers, at least as of recent. So be a little bit careful when he gives a speech. This could slow the market down just a bit. But then later on during the day, we have the 3-month and 6-month bill auctions coming out. And once again, Kashkari at 1 p.m. So we'll see how this affects the markets. We'll be very, very careful. Don't forget, we also have CPI coming out for Tuesday. That's going to be very important simultaneously. Now, when it comes to earnings coming out, we have Monday.com that just came out right now. And we have very minor earnings after the market closes. Later on during the week, we have these earnings as well, like Shopify, not to mention Coinbase and Roku. But for now, we just had Monday.com, which ended up dropping, unfortunately, because of the fact that its revenue outlook was not the best. So looking at it right here, their EPS ended up reaching an adjusted basis of 65 cents a share. That's up 48% relative to the previous year, and revenue was up about 35%. But their guidance was not necessarily the strongest. They predicted $209 million in revenue, and that's actually not the best thus far. It actually dropped about 10% as soon as that came out. So because of not the strongest guidance that came out, and despite the fact that the earnings were quite decent, it still ended up dropping. Guidance is still very, very key. Now, with the S&P 500 closing above 5,000 on Friday, it's still on a very, very nice climb, very, very steady. So we'll see how well this can hold up at these levels. But so far, it's looking very strong. Besides that, I just want to mention that there's some news coming out. There are actually a lot of these commercials during the Super Bowl. Congratulations to all the Chiefs fans out there. But this involves a lot of companies out there. So we're actually seeing a lot of new partnerships that are being announced. Not to mention Microsoft touted AI while Kia showcased its new EVs. That's good for them. There are also going to be more and more sponsors for Verizon that were just announced. On top of this, there's some more news coming out that the Senate on Sunday advanced a bill that included $95 billion to aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. At least that's what they claim it's going to be used for. So that's something else that's coming out. There are important earnings coming out. Don't forget about Coca-Cola and a few others, so that's worth noting. And besides that, a judge has ordered Elon Musk to testify in the SEC, essentially, investigation into his acquisition of Twitter. So there's more going to be going on with that. We'll see how he ends up doing. Things should be fine for him. That's pretty much it, at least in terms of the latest pieces of news affecting the markets. Besides that, for Tesla, one last thing. It knocked off $1,000 of its price from its Model Y to boost its sales again. Not the best of news. Tesla typically drops when news like this comes out, at least temporarily, so watch it very carefully. That being said, what's happening to the markets, what's happening to SPY and such. SPY is actually selling off just a tiny, tiny little bit, testing 501 flat. We're going to be watching to see how well it could hold this. Now, with Bowman giving his speech, be a little bit careful. If we do lose 501, we're going to be returning down here towards 500, but then if we do end up coming down here, we're going to be watching our support, see if we can get a bounce off 500. If we hold 501, we could also try to bounce. Now, watch the all-time highest resistance, 501.6. If we end up breaking above this, we do have the potential to go up to the 502s. Then our next target will be 503 and 505. In my opinion, it might retrace a little bit more. We'll just have to see how well it holds 501 when Bowman gives his speech. Could go a little bit lower, but then I think it's going to get a bounce intraday and try to push right back up and hold up quite nicely. Now, don't forget CPI coming up for Tuesday is going to have a big effect on SPY. If CPI is going to be hot, sometimes you could get a very early reaction. If not, it is what it is. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But look for this thing to basically attempt to bounce if we do end up holding supports, and watch these levels carefully. So it's basically 501, 500, and 498 as critical supports, with resistance being at the high we saw, then 503 on SPY. So far, we're going to be watching these levels. Look for a little potential bounce after it drops in the beginning. The QQQ is also selling off. I was thinking it's going to retest this yellow trend line. We're currently trying to hold 437. If we lose this, watch it come down towards 436, this trend line right here. If we lose that, we're going to likely get closer to the 434s. Resistance, make sure you watch 438. If we break this, we're going to be looking for a bigger push towards 440. Overall, we got a nice double top-like formation. We're going to be watching to see how well this holds. It does look to me like it could retrace a little bit more. So we'll be watching to see if we do end up getting this test before we try to bounce after that. Overall, I would say the QQQ is still holding up nicely. We're still on a nice uptrend, so don't turn too bearish. Could retrace just a little bit and then try to bounce later on. That's what I'm seeing, at least thus far. For Nvda, I would say that Nvda, in my opinion, is looking quite decent, but it looks to me like it's going to sink just a little bit back down towards 721. We have this gap to fill down here, so I think it's going to be retesting 720. Could even go a little bit lower before this thing attempts to bounce again. So I'd be watching 720 as key support, see if we bounce off that. If not, I'd be looking at 715 and then possibly even 707 for the bounces. I do think it's going to retrace a little bit, which could drag the QQQ down just slightly, and then we'll see how it does from there. And with the market pulling back just a bit, one of the things I said about Tesla is that we're expecting this thing to pull back a bit. And that's what's happening in the pre-market. We're going to be watching this 192 support. If we lose this 190, is going to be our next target, followed by essentially us getting very close to 188. So we have 189 as minor support, 188 as stronger support down here. I would say to be very careful. For resistance, make sure you watch this high right here, very close to the 194 area. Then we have 195 to 196 up over here. So Tesla has some very tight levels in this range. We've been in this range for quite some time. It is retracing a little bit with the news coming out about the price cuts. So it could come down here and then rebound a little bit later, but look for a little drop on Tesla. Be a little bit careful as we hit 190 and see if we bounce off there. And watch 192. We'll see if Tesla could bounce as well. So you guys know what supply and demand is. I am anticipating it's going to test 192. If it loses that 190, it could come before we make an attempt to bounce. So watch that carefully. We'll see how it goes. And finally, we have Aapl stock, which is going to be very important. Aapl is kind of flat right now. We're going to be watching this range, right? We're going to be seeing if we could hold 188. If we lose 188, we turn bearish and be looking for 186.5. For bullish, we want to see it break 190 and hold above 190. So looking at the chart, we actually have a head and shoulders like structure, but we need confirmation of a breakdown to turn bearish. So we're going to be watching, does Aapl lose 188? If we lose it, we could be looking for a bigger drop. We have to hold below it, right? You want to lose it and hold below that 188 level in order for us to get that drop. So we'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. If anything, be very patient, remain calm, cool, and collected. And remember, just be very mindful of the fact that not every pattern always plays out. You have to be patient and watch for breakouts, breaks of structure in order for us to see confirmation of these moves. With that being said, the market's still holding up very nicely. We'll be watching support very carefully. I just want the best for everyone. So take care, guys. Do what you have to do. I appreciate everyone out there and have an absolutely spectacular trading day for today. Thank you and peace out.